Welcome to today's lesson. We are continuing with our study of taxonomy. Taxonomy is how scientists classify organisms into different groups based on the characteristics that they share. So for instance, a good way to think about taxonomy is the U.S. Postal Service. If we want to send a letter to someone, we first start off by addressing it to the nation they're in. By default, we usually assume that's America, but it doesn't have to be. It could be England or Costa Rica or Spain. You put their nation or their kingdom. Then within that kingdom, you address it to a slightly more specific level, their state. So for instance, South Carolina would be the same as a phylum. Then within that state, you would address it to their city, and then to their street number, the street they live on. Then you would address it to, say, their apartment complex, and within that complex, you'd address it by their last name to their family, and then finally their first name to the specific person you want to get it to. And in that way, we're able to weed out all the 400 million people we don't want to send our letter to in America and pinpoint the exact person we want the letter to reach. And in the same way, scientists use a taxonomy chart to pinpoint a living creature, an organism, and how it relates to everything else in the world. Now, the way we read this taxonomy chart is from the top to the bottom. Everything is split into 5 kingdoms, and then those kingdoms are split into smaller and smaller groups until finally you end up with a very, very specialized group of creatures. If you have 2 organisms, 2 living things in the same tier, then by necessity they have to be in the same tiers that come above them. Because if, for instance, you had 2 students who are in Miss A Plus's 6th grade class, then by necessity they both have to go to Lake City College Prep. You can't have one go to Lake City and one go to school in Florence and still be in Miss A Plus's class. So they have to fit into the big categories as well, and they would both have to be into the kingdom. So organisms that share the same similarities are in the same class, would be in the same phylum, would be in the same kingdom. Organisms that were in the same genus would also be in the same family, order, class, phylum, kingdom, but not necessarily the same species. Reading down, you can say that a class consists of or contains the tiers below it. A class consists of orders. I can fit the order box here into the class tier that's above it. A class also consists of families, of genuses, of species. A class is not made up of kingdoms, just like a city is not made up of a nation. A city is made up of streets, of apartment complexes, of families, of people. It's not made up of states and countries.